All right. Slammers Recruiting Podcast, episode 5. Normally we give a little rundown of some Slammers alumni. I like the script so much for tonight. I like how we have two ends of the spectrum of a very hot topic inside of the baseball development world of maximizing arm velocity. It's definitely the most gawked after stat that everybody chases, and rightfully so. I totally get it. But we have Peyton Remy, who is a legend high school grad from Parker, Colorado. You were drafted by the Cubs in 2017. Welcome, Peyton. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We have Ari Ronick, graduate of Boulder High School. You ended up at the University of Portland, and you were drafted by the Reds also in 2017. Did you guys know you guys were drafted in the same year?
I did not.
I was '07.
You were 07?
Yeah, a little older.
It's
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yep.
man. You look great for your age, Ari. You look absolutely great for your age. Peyton, I'll ask you first. So you went to Legend High School. You ended up going to junior college in Arizona. As you look back on your path, how did that happen, and what did you learn from it that a Colorado recruit and their family can benefit from?
Oh, man. So I was originally signed to go play for Ray Birmingham at the University of New Mexico, and had a really good relationship with him, and the pitching coach at the time was Dan Spencer, and I was all good to go, signed, sealed, got into school, was supposed to go out and play summer ball in Albuquerque and get a head start on classes as well. And about a month before I was going to do that, Coach Spencer took the pitching coach job at Washington State. And, I was kind of considering junior college because I was kind of teetering academic-wise and, really wanted to get drafted out of high school. And honestly, it was just the perfect excuse for me to go to junior college, right? So I was playing with a grad team with Slammers, and we happened to be in Arizona. And we had a lot of junior colleges there to come watch me and several other players. And I pitched one game, and I talked with Coach Anthony Gillich, who is now the assistant coach at Cal Berkeley. He was the head coach at Central Arizona at the time. And I pitched pretty well, and he gave me a scholarship. And I knew a few kids who were going to be going there as dual commits. They were from the state of Arizona. I knew them through the area code games. And I didn't even visit the campus or nothing. The first time I saw campus was move-in day. So I was all in, and it was the best thing for me. It was the best 2 years of my life and completely changed my life. I needed to be humbled, and I needed to go compete and learn and see other good players. And I'm so fortunate that Coach Gillich trusted me and, gave me the opportunity to go play there.
Awesome. Hang on a second. Nino's calling me. Hey. Yep. Did you guys have any problems getting in? They didn't. You're coming from the calendar invite? I mean, I just revised the link. I just refreshed the link. It should work. When was the last time you killed your calendar app? Do that real quick, because then it will refresh the link for you. All right. So we'll get started again. I want to mention one, because first of all, Peyton, I want you to give a real quick rundown of what you said to play into Nino, because I'm going to ask him a question. Because
Sure.
I don't think the situation that you were in, where your coach left, right?
Yep.
I think you could have followed him now, right?
Yeah, and I could have if UNM would have granted me my release or whatever. But
Could they do that now?
Yeah, I think they do that now. I think it's a lot more easier of a transaction nowadays. But back in the day, it would have been jumping through loops to, get my transcript accepted to Washington State and all that
I'm
stuff.
good, man. How you guys doing? Sorry, I'm
Hey, Nino.
running a little late.
How you doing, man?
Hi,
It's
Peyton.
okay. Meet Peyton. Peyton was a Legend High School grad.
Nice
Well,
meeting you,
you
Coach. I've
never
heard great
talked to
things
my
about you.
wife,
I had
then.
some buddies go and play for you. They absolutely love you and speak really highly of you.
No, my wife would say good things about me. You played at the University of New Mexico? Yeah.
I was signed to go there out of high school. I was going to go play for Coach Birmingham when he was there. And then Coach Dan Spencer, he was the pitching coach at the time.
Yeah.
And about a month before I was supposed to go out there for summer school and summer ball, he took the job at Washington State. And that's when
wow.
I
Good. And then where'd you
fully
go
committed
after
to go into
Central
junior
Arizona?
college, and that's how I ended up at Central Arizona. I was committed to the New Mexico State, actually, to go play for Coach Brian Green. He is now the head coach at Wichita State. And I really hit it off with him, and he gave me a great scholarship and a great opportunity. And then I was fortunate enough to get drafted
good for you.
by the Chicago Cubs out of Central
Congratulations.
Arizona. And that was an easy decision for me to accept that.
Coach, you couldn't.
Thank
Coach,
you.
you won't be able to tell, but there's a 10-year difference between Ari and
Who-
Peyton,
who's-
and I found
who's
that
older,
out.
Ari
I
or
found that out
Peyton?
by screwing up the draft classes because I thought they were drafted
Ari
in the
is?
same year, but they're not. All
I
right.
am 10 years older.
Yeah, I said he was drafted in 2017. He goes 2007, my bro. He was like, it was 2000.
Peyton has 3 kids. He's mature
Yeah,
in spirit.
I
Did I
moved
lose
to
you guys?
I moved to Colorado with my parents in 2007. So
That's funny. He'll be back. He probably just fell off. We can edit all the editing stuff works pretty good. So, Ari, please, from Boulder High by way of University of Portland and now back at Slammers North, please tell us about your path and what you learned that would be of value to the Colorado recruit.
For me, I think it's just maybe a story that people find college baseball in different ways. I was not a Division I prospect as a high school junior or a high school senior, but developed late, picked up a couple miles an hour the summer after my senior year and had some success there. So I actually signed at the University of Portland in mid-August before going. I was planning on being a Division III player. Had a good summer. Yeah, things ticked up a little bit, and I had reached out through email. Actually, my brother had on my behalf to the Portland coach and asked him to come watch me at the Legion World Series, which that year was in Corvallis, Oregon. I got shelled, but managed to show something, I guess. You never really know what coaches are seeing or what they're looking for, especially at that age. So came out of it, had a visit with UP, and ended up spending 4 years there. It was a great experience.
Wow. So you graduated and had never spoken to the University of Portland.
No, never.
Wow. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. Welcome back, Coach. I'll just before we get into it, and we'll definitely roll from here. So a couple of things. Try to keep your takes to 45 seconds or less. That's kind of the threshold. And the long version, the episodes are great, but this is really about the sound bites, because what we do is just be conversational. Don't try to rush or anything, but pretty much all of the sound bites that become 45 seconds or less, those we chop those up, put those out. And for instance, we average about 3 to 4 hours a day of content consumption of our YouTube shorts. That's just on YouTube, right? So, that's just a thing to be mindful of. Hey, Coach, is there any reason at all, that a recruit
No,
should view
not
junior
really.
college as
Not in my
as a
experience,
subpar
obviously. Junior
situation?
college right now is probably one of the best avenues to take based on you're not even using eligibility anymore when you're in junior college. You can go to a 4-year school and get that eligibility back. But I think the only downside to junior college is if you really excelled academically in high school and you know exactly what academic path you want to take and you don't want to take 5 years or 6 years to get out of college, I think that's the only downside to junior college. But from a baseball standpoint, no, I don't think junior college is a bad avenue at all. And I don't think it's a bad avenue academically. I just think that, if you know you want to go to Stanford, or you want to go to USC or UCLA, you probably should start your school. And if you want to be an engineer, you probably should go be an engineer.
And that's only on the premise of time, right? You can still be a good
Oh,
student and go
most
be a good
definitely.
student at a junior
And
college and
I
still
just
go to a
think,
good school.
there's only a few things to consider. Economics, how long you're going to be in school, and how much you want to spend. So you got to understand that. And then, but from a baseball standpoint, a junior college is a great avenue.
Peyton, I'll ask you first, and then I'll follow up with the same for you, Ari. Peyton, what was the biggest misconception your family had about recruiting?
Um, I would say just the physicality. That the expectation that you need to come in and be ready to work. A little bit with the academic side as well. My mom, she was a teacher, but we just didn't know. We didn't have the resources really to really do a deep dive on the academics. And, school didn't come easy for me. So I actually, my junior and senior year of high school, I really had to kick it into gear and to, just to be D1 eligible and get into school and all that stuff. So the academics, we weren't as enlightened as we probably should have been. And then the pure physicality of what you need to, the strength thresholds that you need to go compete at a college campus.
Put some perspective on that. So from your senior year, so say from the beginning of your senior year to the end of your freshman year, so that gives you a year to go through that realization of how much more physical it was.
Yep.
What were the measurables, or what represented how strong that you had to become?
Oh man, I mean, I actually grew 2 inches my freshman year of college as well. So I graduated high school at 5'11", 147 pounds, and I threw hard, but I was tiny. I was up to 94 every now and then, but it was, my arm would hurt and I couldn't last a whole season normally. And then by the end of my freshman year of college, I was 6'2", 170, and had some facial hair. So, a lot changed. I had to go compete with those older guys because we had guys who had maybe redshirted at a Division I and then played, and now they're back at a junior college, so they've been in school for 3 full years, but they still had some eligibility left. So, we had 21, 22-year-old kids at my junior college.
Wow. All right, same question. What was the biggest misconception you and your family had about recruiting when you went through it?
I think just the inexperience of it. It was hard to understand kind of the process around, like, you're almost marketing yourself in a way, but I felt like, looking back, for me, I put too much into that side, getting exposure to colleges, and almost like the development part takes a back seat to that other piece, when really it needs to be the other way around. If you spend the time doing what you need to do to develop yourself, and then have an idea of which schools you're interested in, reach out to schools that are within reach for you. That's an approach that I would take if I did it all over again.
Everybody on this call, Coach, were late bloomers. Sounds like you said you grew a couple inches or gained a couple of miles an hour summer of your senior year. Ari, Peyton,
Yeah.
you matured a lot your freshman year, and it was the same thing for me. I matured at 19. I've spoken before about how I actually think that this current system of recruiting that they're going through, I think it really benefits a lot of particularly Colorado kids, that if you're not chewing up your eligibility and you can have a gap year, you can go to a junior college and not eat your eligibility up. I really think that helps with keeping up physically. Peyton, you run the AVP at Slammers North. First of all, for the parents that don't know what it is, and of the listeners, give a brief description of what AVP is, and typical training look like for a 15 or 16-year-old that goes to the program?
Yeah, so AVP stands for the Arm Velocity Program. It's a program that I did when I was in high school when I played for Slammers, and it has evolved so much over the last 10 to 15 years. In a short summary, it's 18 weeks of throwing, lifting 3 days a week, you know, gaining strength, gaining power in the weight room, and then on the mound, for pitchers specifically, we're trying to master our throw, and we're trying to build volume in the kids' arms so that they can be ready for the, the long season ahead with the spring, summer, and fall. We can talk more about it here in a little bit, but it's not some crazy weighted ball program, right, the way I run it. Yes, we do throw some plyo balls at different weights. Yes, we do throw some slight variation of weighted balls off the mound. But that's even more so for control. But it's getting the boys ready for their season, the long road ahead, building those good habits, building a strong foundation, recovering from the summer and fall of the previous year. And, it looks a little bit different for a 15-year-old freshman, and then maybe a senior who's committed Division I, who's been up to 94. It looks a little bit different, right? So there's different phases of the throwing. We have the on-ramp phase, and then we have a velocity phase, and then we have a mound blend phase, and then we have a pitching specific phase where they are dialing in all their stuff. We look at their metrics and whatnot and try to maximize all the boys' stuff and their outputs, and we try to separate them into different groups or categories of he's a 15-year-old freshman. He just needs to get stronger and faster and be a better athlete. Then we have the senior who's 79 to 82, and we needed him to get to 85 to get a scholarship. So they're two completely different programs for depending on the athlete.
What are the typical gains that you see for somebody that participates?
On the average fastball, probably like 1.5 to 2. Again, it kind of depends, right? So one thing that I'm very proud of right now is all of our boys are throwing harder now in the middle of their high school season than they were the last month of AVP, where they should be fully ramped up, ready to go. That's one thing that I see a lot in today's baseball world, where you have a kid who will throw 94 indoors in a perfect environment, and then you go watch him pitch in the spring, and he's 88 to 91. That just makes absolutely no sense to me. So really getting the boys ready to go compete and, learning their throw to where they can go hit that gas pedal at any time they need.
Outstanding. Nino, tell me, let's put some numbers on it. What are the velocity thresholds that put you in the conversation at Division 1, 2, 3, work your way down?
Yeah, I think, obviously Division 1, 88 to 91 with command of a breaking ball, and missing bats. 91 to 93 at Division 1, and missing bats. Now they're going 96 to 98 at the Division 1 level, but anywhere from 88, 89 probably to 94, 95 at the Division 1 level. I see a lot of power arms at the next level, 88 to 93 at the Division 2 level, and maybe the breaking ball isn't as sharp and the explosiveness of the fastball isn't the same, but there are some guys. As you drop down a level, maybe it's 84 to 88 with command, and then, being able to miss bats. But, 86, 88, when I was a Division I coach for a while, was probably the key number, and it's jumped. It's 92 to 94 is the average fastball in most Division I conferences.
Question for the group. Ari, start a quick roundtable, little quick trigger. Here's my belief. If you can throw backwards, essentially, if you have that good of breaking ball command, you can throw 86 to 88 and get anybody out from Division I to the big leagues. Agree or disagree, Ari?
I agree. If you can pitch at different speeds.
Nino?
Well, if you could command 3 pitches, and you can throw those pitches at any time, and you can pitch in with your fastball to right-handers and left-handers, you could pitch at any velocity you want. But if you cannot command both sides of the plate, velocity becomes an issue. And if you cannot locate the breaking ball when you want to with 2 strikes in a 2-0 count, velocity becomes an issue.
Peyton, what do you think?
Exactly what Coach just said. If you can have some confidence out there, pitch to both sides of the plate, land a breaking ball for a strike, and in those hitter leverage counts, it doesn't matter. Just keep guys off balance and mix your stuff, and you have balls to steal, as they say. You can get guys out.
All right. When you hear about a 15-year-old doing weighted ball work, what goes through your mind? And what does the research say about these sorts of training, like the risk versus reward of these sorts of training tactics?
I think of it as a tool, like anything else, and it's how it's used is the part that I want to better understand. Weighted balls can be used for velocity enhancement. It can be used also for as a biofeedback tool to help with patterning. It can be used for command training. It can be used for durability as a way to challenge athletes to adapt to slight changes in ball weight. So 5 ounces by itself isn't inherently the only right weight. It's just how it's used. So if it's someone who's young and doesn't have the other components that we're talking about of enough physical maturity, enough strength, coordination, and other physical attributes like that, they move decently well, I wouldn't want to throw an aggressive weighted ball program on top of that. But I also don't think it needs to be perfectly linear. Those are things that can be worked on together in the right way, and that's something that I see Peyton do a nice job of here. He brings in the performance side. We have Dan involved. I was involved in some of the assessments at the front end of the AVP. There's ways to do it safely, and there are ways to do it recklessly. And so it's just up to the person running it, the coach, to guide these 15-year-old kids in a way that sets them up for success, both short-term and long-term.
Before I ask a follow-up to Peyton, Coach, real quick, you said good command, right? If I'm a parent who doesn't really know baseball stats that well, when I go look in Game Changer, how do I know if it's good command?
Yeah, I don't know if you can get it off a Game Changer, and I definitely don't think you can get it off of watching a kid throw indoors into a net and see his max velocity. I think you're going to have to keep track of that. You're going to have to go in the backyard and watch your son play catch, and can he get to all 4 quadrants of the strike zone? Can he get to down and in? Can he get to up and in? Can he get to up and away? Can he get to down and away? And if he can get to those 4 quadrants with one pitch, which is the fastball, you know that he's commanding it. If he's throwing the ball in the center of the plate, I wouldn't necessarily say that's command. But if you can throw to the 4 quadrants of the plate, that's command. And then you can command the breaking ball up and in, down, up and away, down and away, mostly down and away with the breaking ball. And then can you command the changeup? Can you command the changeup? So I think you have to look at your pitch sequences, and you have to understand how you're going to be able to get hitters out, because you cannot get hitters out in the middle of the plate. You can get them out in, you can get them out away, get them out up sometimes if you have high spin rate. But you got to be working with an expert to understand if that spin rate's not above 2,500, you're probably not going to want to pitch up, because that ball's going to get hit really, really hard.
Well, we have 3 on the call. I know that. I know 2 pitching guys specifically that sit in Summers North. When you look in Game Changer for the parents out there, Coach, if I look at my kid who's pitched and I see that what Game Changer shows is number of pitches and number of strikes. So if I look at Game Changer and I see that my kid threw 50 pitches, when can I say that he has good command? Out of how many of 50?
how many outs is he getting out of those 50 pitches, and then that'll tell you what kind of command he has.
How many should he get? What's an exceptional number?
50
10?
pitches
Yeah, 50 pitches.
at the high school level. 50 pitches, he should be able to get 15 outs.
5 innings.
Yeah, he should be able to get 15 outs.
You heard it here first. That's the standard, brought to you by Coach G right there. Peyton, where is the line for you on pushing a kid, right? How do you balance, how do you observe pushing a kid versus when when the body's maybe being taken too far?
That's a good question. So I really try to build a good relationship with the kid, right? I want to know what he did in the spring for his high school, what happened in the summer, what happened in the fall. Did we have any big velo jumps? Has he grown, 3 or 4 inches? Did he get hurt? Did he have any setbacks? How old is he? Has he gone through some major stages of puberty? All of that is a factor when I have to consider how old is he, right? I'm not going to push the threshold of a kid who is a freshman with a live arm, but he's 130 pounds, right? But maybe the senior, again, like I mentioned earlier, who's 79 to 82, loves to play, competitor, can throw lots of strikes and stuff. He just needs to get to that 83, 85 threshold, maybe to go, to whatever school. Then that's just the context, what the timeline is, what time of year it is, and where that athlete currently is in his development process. So it goes all on an individual basis for sure.
Yeah, I got a remark too. And as somebody in my 11-year professional career, I had a lot of injuries. And when you rehab a lot of injuries through a career, and I feel like everybody in this call can feel me on this, but when you train with athletes, so in that AVP environment, if you've ever dealt with an injury, particularly in a rotational sport like ours, it's really hard to hide if you're sore.
Yeah.
Like the pain, even in the youth, it's really hard to hide that. And I think that the nature of the relationship that I definitely observe that you have, Peyton, and I know you are just by the nature of the rehab process, it's intimate, right? I mean, it's like it's as mental as much as it is physical. I think on the AVP side, I do have to compliment you, Peyton. Like you are paying very close attention. It is a high touch game. You are paying very close attention because there's a lot of reps in your time as well. But it would be very hard. And there was a parent that had a concern about the volume, right? You mentioned volume, the volumization of taking someone who is considered a youth or, somebody who is maturing in high school. Is it too much? It's kind of hard to hide when you're going through too much when you're in AVP. You got a lot of eyeballs on you, and I know you've rehabbed injuries. You really can't hide anything from you in there.
No, I mean, our eyes work, right? You can tell if a kid's babying it or somewhat or whatever, and then, we ask him how his arm feels, and you can just see it in their eyes, right? You can see it if their eyes, if something's bothering them, or if they're telling you the full truth and stuff like that. So, yeah, you can't hide if you're feeling sore and you're dragging a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's ask the expert, though, Ari. Right? I want you to tell me what are the most common injuries that young high school pitchers experience, and do you think that they're connected to training, or is it just the nature of throwing?
Like anything, there's an element of both involved, but the most common injuries I see with kids who are growing quickly is a growth plate injury. It's a pretty common. So that could be on their inner elbow, that could be on their shoulder. Those are really common things that we see from, the 13, 14, 15-year-olds. As you get older than that, the weak link tends to become more tendons and ligaments rather than growth plates. So it shifts a little bit of the stress to an area that's still near those growth plates, but tend to start looking for those structures rather than the growth plate in older athletes. And I think one of the most common ones I see is, I would describe it as doing too much too quickly after doing too little for too long.
Say that again.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, it's a quick ramp up. So if you don't have enough of a base built, this could be in running, this could be in basketball, and it's certainly the case in pitching and throwing, that if you've been doing a low level of throwing for an extended period of time, and then you have a quick spike where you throw a ton and you throw hard, that tends to be difficult for an arm to handle. So, but always an element of both.
What is one prehab injury prevention exercise that every single teenage pitcher should do?
Oh, that's a tough question. Because I really think the most important part is the throwing piece. So how are they keeping their arms in shape? Are they ramping on slowly at the start of the season? Are they taking time when they need it? That tends to be the most important one. But the really basic exercises that aren't super cool, of working your rotator cuff, of strengthening your forearms, tend to be helpful, and in a way, the same things that are beneficial from a performance lens, those are the same things that you would do to help prevent an injury.
Well said.
As it pertains to exercise.
Very well said. You sound like a doctor, even though I'm not allowed to call you one. Peyton, along those lines, if I'm a parent and I have a kid who wants to become an elite pitcher, and they are obsessive about adding velocity, what is the one thing that I should make sure that they're doing for them to accomplish more velocity? What's the one thing I should care about as a parent in my observation of my child, that he is trending in the right direction and maximizing his velocity?
Make sure at ages 9 through 14, you're doing everything you can to become the best athlete possible. Throw more than you pitch at those younger ages. And then once you get to that 14, 15, 16-year-old, we have a good solid base there, and a base of athleticism and strength. So then, you can really start to push the envelope, at 16 years old, or when you do go through a little bit more puberty, and maybe something clicks and you have that spike of 4 miles an hour, over a 2-month period. It just happens naturally, but you're doing the right things and you have a good base and foundation set up so that your body can handle maybe that spike in velocity just a little bit more. So become the best athlete you can possibly become the best thrower you can possibly become, and then we can teach anyone to throw on the slope, right? But they got to be able to throw from different arm angles, throw the football, throw the baseball, throw everything you possibly can, and just become the best athlete you possibly can at a younger age.
Ari, this is probably more for a younger parent or coach. I've observed this a lot, though, particularly in the 13 or 14-year-old age group, where kids' arms will get sore, right? And then and my dad always described it a certain way. He's like, does it hurt in the muscle or does it hurt in the joint? And if it hurt in the muscle, he's like, oh, you'll be fine. Keep throwing, right? And I know we've evolved past that, but I'll see a lot of 13-year-olds and then they grab that bicep, right? And it's just a little fatigue. And how does a coach, what's your best advice for a coach on how to interpret pain signals from a young player and know whether or not they should play through them or they should coach or push them through it?
Yeah, it's a hard question, and I'm not sure I have the perfect answer for it. I think the way your dad described it, of feeling it more in muscles, especially with really young players before puberty, that's a good starting rule of thumb. With younger kids, like I said, growth plate injuries are pretty common, and those tend to happen on the knob, on the inside of the elbow, and on the outer portion of the shoulder here. So if they're pointing to those two areas, which are closer to the joint, as you mentioned earlier, that's a spot where you're going to want to usually back off a little bit and give the kid some rest. But I think it's a difficult thing for a kid. Their interpretation of pain is already much different than an adult's. Understanding the difference between soreness and pain or injury takes people time to learn for themselves as baseball players.
Coach, I know you remember the line from the program. Are you hurt or are you injured?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good movie.
What's the difference? Well, if you're hurt, you can go back out there and play. If you're injured, you can't play.
Exactly.
Coach, tell me. I actually had a conversation with a parent. Their son is coming back from arm surgery. He's in the critical evaluation period, which I call it. So he's a junior in high school, and they thought, and I actually said that I was going to bring it to the group, but they thought it would be a good idea to not talk about his injury. And so then what that's making them do is that he's not seeking relationships. He's not having any communications because he doesn't want to talk about the injury. And then his plan is when he goes out in on the summer circuit that if and when he does have any communications with coaches, that he's not going to mention his arm injury. How should a player handle communication with college coaches about injuries that they've either had, currently working through, or are coming back from?
Yeah, I think they should be. I think they should be honest about the timeline that they're on with the injury, when it happened, what process are they in? Are they in a no-throw phase? Are they in a rehab phase? Are they working with muscle tissue? What's happening? Are they on a throwing program? How's that throwing program going? I think that they should be honest about that. I think not talking about it. I mean, obviously, that I think not seeing the MRI is probably more important than not talking about it. I don't think there's any kid that needs to see the MRI of the injury, because then that puts a picture in their mind that they're not capable of overcoming that. I think talking about it is something that you can overcome. Seeing it is very detrimental to a lot of people sometimes.
All right, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's in conversations, in everyday conversations with someone coming off of a surgery, it's always the first question: how you feeling? How's your arm? How you coming back? And I think that can be difficult for the athlete because everything they're talking about has to do with their injury instead of them as people. And I couldn't agree more as it pertains to MRIs and seeing an MRI report, which is always going to look bad, almost always going to look bad for a thrower. So it's having feel with it. It's kind of working with the whole human, trying to have conversations with them, get to know them, help them get through that difficult time period and hopefully come out of it stronger. But I think, when it comes to their conversations with college coaches, I would expect, honesty needs to be a part of it. Just talk through what's going on, tell them when you're expected, because what typically happens is kids don't want to say anything, and then they go back to playing, and they're not really themselves quite yet. They might have rehabbed from an injury, but their performance might not be quite where it's going to get yet. And if anything, coaches start writing them off if they don't know why.
Yeah. Peyton, I'm kind of on the other side of the spectrum here, but connecting the mental piece. What made me think to ask this was when Nino said, like seeing the picture of you broken type of a thing and being very mindful of that. Going to the other end of the spectrum, I think that one value of the AVP experience, particularly with the energy that you bring in there, is that there is a high state of readiness mentality that goes on in there. And that's embodied but from your tone of voice, from your energy, from how you demonstrate and all of that. But I think talk about even when you are doing physical tasks and you're doing physical training, talk about how the AV experience wires the brain as well to be a high performer.
Shoot, it's tough. Like, if you're good, baseball's repetitive, right? You have to find, like, the oldest quote that I can think of is, when you're juiceful, you're useful, and when you're juiceless, you're useless, right? So with myself being a coach, I try to bring that to the group, but then being a player in training, right, it's very repetitive, right? Especially when you truly become a pitcher only. You're going to have to find a way to bring that energy and to find something to work on day to day, week to week, something to cling to and obsess over and, ask questions about and experiment with as well, right? So So yeah, no, it takes a lot to kind of bring that energy every day as a coach and as a player. But if you're passionate about something and you love it and you care about it, you're gonna turn over rocks and figure it out, right? So it's just being a problem solver at the end of the day, being a player.
The quick hitter, Ari. Give the audience your go-to anti-inflammatory hack that you used when you were playing pro ball. Go.
Contrast.
Contrast, temperature contrast. That's mine as well. That was exactly how I managed inflammation. How about you, Peyton?
Same thing, and then just moving, right? For me, and then learning when to actually rest. But contrast was huge for me as well.
Question for both of you. Either one of you can answer. One thing that I've noticed inside of pitching programs, in particularly, like pitching conditioning programs, is there seems to be a way less distance running going on, and I thought that was kind of like that was the one main thing, and that was seemed to be the most applicable to what a pitcher would use. I'm curious as to your guys' opinion of A, that trend, and B, just your opinion of how important running can be for performance enhancement of a pitcher.
Doctor, go first.
Yeah, that was a big part of the between starts training program when I was playing. The thinking has shifted in a couple of different ways. One of them has to do with hip mobility being really important in pitching and in throwing. And when you're going through a movement like running that's repeated, it tends to have some shortening effects on your hip flexors, different things like that can affect you, how you move on the mound. The other part that people talk about with this relates to, the explosive element of pitching. It's a fast movement. It's a type 2 muscle fiber. You're trying to move quickly down the mound. So there's some concerns that doing that kind of training might shift you a little bit more towards, kind of an endurance type athlete. And I still think there's benefit from a cardiovascular lens to the recovery that comes from doing that type of training. But there's other ways to get creative with it besides running. You can still get to that kind of, zone 2 training, as it's sometimes called, slower endurance training in other ways besides going out and going for a run. So all different ways to train athletes. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I think there's other ways that we can typically train athletes than distance running.
Go ahead, Peyton.
Yeah, I agree, right? I think there's a time and place for the long distance running. Pitching over 5, 6, or 7 innings, you're doing a lot of sprints, right? You're doing something max effort, then you stop for a few seconds, you catch your breath, take another breath, then you sprint again, right? So, where we don't really want to get is to where it's like, hey, you're running 20 poles every single day. For some guys, they're not going to see that affect them, but most of the guys, their bodies will adapt to that, to the way they're training, the way they're conditioning their bodies. So I do believe on the health aspect, there's lots of benefits, but again, it was just we're trying to train and get our bodies ready for what we were going to do out on the mound when it's game day. So yeah, no, there's been a big shift in in baseball, in professional baseball specifically, I'd say, with long distance and conditioning running.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy to me. Ari, and I'll ask you both the same question. Ari, I'll start with you. What do you wish you understood about what do you wish that you understood about the coaches that were looking at you, or what they were trying to evaluate you beyond the radar gun when you were in high school?
That's a good question. I think all the other pieces that go into being a good pitcher, and Coach Nino can probably speak to this more than I can, but coaches are likely looking for someone that can come in, be a good teammate, come in, be a good student or a good enough student at their university, and then come in and help the team win. Really, and there's a lot of ways to do that besides throwing hard. As we talked about earlier, throwing hard gives you a little more margin for error, most likely, than not throwing hard. But there's a lot of other components that go into helping a team win games. And then those other aspects of being a contributing member of a college team. I think it was difficult for me to grasp some of that at 17, 18 years old.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was fortunate when I was getting recruited by Central Arizona. They didn't say anything about my velocity or my curveball. They said, "Hey, man, we've heard you're a great kid, and from what we've seen, you want to win baseball games." And that was eye-opening to me, just because all the conversations I had previous with different schools and whatnot, it was, we love the fastball, we love the curveball, we need to add a slider, we need to do this, that, and that was all cool. But, do you want to win baseball games? Are you there for the right reasons? Yes, can you handle the academics at XYZ school? But, just the competitiveness and the will to want to win, that's huge. That's one thing that I wish I knew a little bit sooner, but I was fortunate enough to be introduced to that right before I went to college.
Coach, two questions for you. First one is, how does a pitcher demonstrate to a coach that they have the will to win on the mound?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, can they get to the next pitch? Once that pitch is gone, can they get to the next pitch? And what's the preparation getting to the next pitch? And what's the effort level getting to the next pitch? Is there too much effort? Is there too much anger? Is there not enough effort? And Ari said it really well, being a good teammate. I mean, oh man, how important that is. Can you hold runners? Can you field your position? But can you just get to the next pitch? And then when that pitch is over, can you get to the next opportunity? How are you going to prepare to get to the next opportunity? Had a kid by the name of Landon Barasa, and Landon got hurt in his first outing his junior year, his draft year at San Diego State. He blew out his arm and had Tommy John surgery. And I had a meeting with him, and I said, "Hey, Landon, the only difference between today and what happened tomorrow is you're getting ready for your next outing. Your next outing is going to be a year and a half from now, but you're going to get ready for your next pitch that you're going to make a year and a half from now. How well will you do that? How well will you do that?" And it was amazing to see how well he did that for the next 16 months. He just focused on the next pitch he was going to make. It just happened to be 16 months and not 12 seconds or not 4 days or not 2 days, right? It just happened to be a long time. And he had an unbelievable mentality to understand how to get to his next opportunity.
Ari, this is a little bit off script for me when I'm thinking about rehabbing. But when you work with and you're watching a player build back, and you've worked with the full spectrum, you've had players in the MLB. I've seen you work with young, even it looks like middle school athletes. Sometime. Speak a little bit about competitiveness when you're not competing, because I think one thing that's really important about having a successful rehab process is that for you to get back on the field, you have to learn how to compete again. What is your advice, or what have you seen in some of the best that do? What do they demonstrate? When do they demonstrate competitiveness, even when they're rehabbing?
Yeah, I think they want to get after it from the start, and there are always ups and downs in the rehab process. Even the most competitive athletes I've seen, they will no doubt have a day or have a week where they're struggling, and that's where you need to have a conversation with them, check in with them, know them well enough to know what they might need in those moments. But I think part of that is celebrating the small wins. It's not they're not winning a game, they're not getting all the way back to play necessarily, but if you can build in throughout the rehab process, a few moments. Let's say it's the first time they pick up a weight, they take their brace off, the first time they pick up a weight, the first time they pick up a baseball, even if they're just throwing it 30 feet, the first time they get to the mound, the first time they get back to games, celebrating those moments with them so that they're able to enjoy the process too as part of that, and compete through it, win this next phase. You've got 4 weeks here where this is your priority, this is your focus. Let's spend our time getting after that. So just helping them reframe what's already an athlete mindset, I think, can be useful.
Peyton, is a demonstration of emotion required for a pitcher to show that they're competitive?
No.
How as a pitcher, if I'm a young pitcher,
Yeah,
and I'm not an extrovert, if I'm an introvert,
yeah,
it's probably going to be hard for me to show emotion in a public setting. How can I
yeah.
show I'm competitive if I'm an introvert?
Um, like Nino said, can you get to the next pitch? What's your body language look like on the mound, right? Are you got runners on second and third, one out, and you strike a dude out and you're fist pumping and giving it an F yeah, well, say, hey man, you got another batter. And that's one thing I'm seeing a lot at the high school level and even on TV when I'm watching these college baseball games. They want to be emotional and they want to show their emotion, but and then all of a sudden they're giving up that double in the gap and they're scoring two. But how can you show your emotion out there? It's can you get to the next pitch? What's your body language? Are you picking up your infielders, or if they make an error, are you locked in with them? You can sense that and feel that. You don't necessarily have to be the rah-rah guy. Are you picking up your teammates, right? Are you up on the top step on the fence after you get pulled in the third or the second or whenever, right? That's how you can show it, right? Your body language, how you talk to your teammates, how are you treating your coaches in between innings, all of that for sure.
Yeah, I think, and I say this to my players all the time, but successful baseball players at the levels really manage themselves well. And part of managing yourself through the skill requirement of the game and handling all of the variables that go into whether you're successful or not, I think that showing emotion, timely showing of emotion, I think is actually what it should be the call out, because there's only certain times in the game when emotion, and this is a better way to say it, there are very critical moments to a successful baseball player, whether they're a position player or a pitcher, where emotion cannot be a part of what's going on. Emotion has to be separate from the operation. And so I understand how that manifests itself sometimes, but self-control and, like what you said, Peyton, body language. I just think that your demeanor and your body language, the energy that you bring, can be very loud and emotional without showing emotion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have
and
like posture? How is your
you can tell. You can just tell if it's authentic too, right? like you can tell. You can go up to any field and tell if it's authentic without even knowing a kid's personality or his upbringing or anything like that.
Yeah, your habits swell to the surface. If you watch athletes long enough, you can tell what their habits are. Coach, one last question for you, or one question for you before we get to our last one for the group.
Sure.
How should a high school coach talk to a family whose son throws 82 to 84 miles an hour and he wants to go Division One?
Yeah, I think he should obviously give him an opportunity to continue. You never know. Look at the guys here on this call. I mean, how exceptional are these two guys? And they were both late bloomers, right? So you can go from 82 to 84 to 86, 88 to 88 to 90, that 92. You can do it. But I think the high school coach should have a conversation with the kid. I mean, you need to master pitching, and then your velocity will come. If you learn how to pitch at 82, 84, and you're the best pitcher that you can be at 82, 84, and your velocity comes, then Division One is in the works for you. But if you don't master pitching and all you do is chase velocity, probably never going to happen for you, right? So even if you get to 86, 88 and you don't know how to pitch, Division One's probably not going to work. Even if you go 90 to 94 and you don't know how to pitch, Division One's probably not going to work for you. So I think you need to understand what is it going to take for you to make a jump velocity-wise? You have to become great at being rotational. You have to become great at being rotational. You have to get your release point further and further out in front of you so that you can grab velocity and reach for it, right? It doesn't happen back here. It doesn't happen out of the glove. It happens out in front when you rotate your body correctly. So I think you have to be able to work with experts like these two that are on the call right here. You got to seek somebody that knows how to teach the rotational piece to help you gain velocity. But 82, 84, like we said earlier, I've seen some guys at TCU that pitched at 82 to 84 that were fantastic and pitched at a very high level, but they knew how to pitch.
Know how to pitch, know how to start and miss bats. Peyton and Ari, last question, and you guys can take it how you want to do. You can answer it together, you can answer it separately. If you could design the ideal year-round program for a high school pitcher in Colorado, what would it look like month to month?
Shoot,
Take it away, Peyton.
All right. Really those winter months, so let's just start in mid-October. Okay, so fall ball's wrapping up probably first, maybe second week of October. There needs to be a deload period, a quiet period. I recommend a gradual, a slow kind of ramp back up, right? So I don't really like it when a kid will take 2 months off of throwing. So immediately after the fall ball season, maybe you're playing catch 3 days a week at 60 to 90 feet. And then that last, the next week you're playing catch 2 days a week at 60 feet. Then you maybe take a week or 10 days completely off. And then let's say right in November, we're going to start ramping back up. So 6 to 8 week ramp up, building that volume at a, 50 to 75% effort, just getting the arm moving again. And then we hit January, and you can start to, maybe have a 3 week high intent phase where you're going maybe 1 day a week, then 2 days a week. And then in February, March, we're hitting the ground running with pitching and continue to ramp up that intent. And then you're in season, right? So then you're managing it outing to outing, week to week. You have to take everything to account. So is he the starting shortstop and the ace on the team? That's a completely different conversation, right? So just managing workload, keeping your high days, your low days, your low days. And that's easy in the summer, right? With my team, I have my hands on them. I know exactly who's going to pitch and when. I know exactly who threw 50 innings in the spring for their high school and who threw 12, right? So I know who's ready to, maybe take on more of a workload. And then at the same time, I don't want to, put a kid in a bad position to where he's going to get hurt or his performance is going to suffer. So, really maximizing those winter months, November through February. It's crucial, right? It's preparing the boys for the long road ahead, especially if they're only playing baseball and especially if they've only played baseball since they were 12 and no other sports. That's a conversation for another day. but yeah, it's, you got to look at the big picture of where they want to go, where they're at, where do they want to go, their workload for their school, their workload for their club ball, and then diving into that injury history, of course. But, really dialing in those winter months and then keeping the main thing in season, which is pitching, right, which is trying to go win games. So, yeah, it depends on the kid, depends on the injury history and all that stuff. And, yeah, there's a lot that can go into it.
All right, I saw a lot of head nodding there, so I'm gonna ask. I'll save my final question for you. I'm gonna ask you this: if I'm a parent of a player who doesn't want to lift weights, what should I do if I still want to become an elite pitcher?
If you're a parent of a kid who doesn't want to lift weights,
Or I'm a parent that I don't want my kid to lift weights.
you don't
Because,
want your kid to lift
I'm a big
weights.
fan of the players in the 50s. They didn't lift any weights. They hit just as many homers as they do now, and I don't want their shoulder to get tight. My kid's going to throw 100 someday, Ari. He's going to throw 100 someday, and I don't want him to get a tight shoulder.
Yeah, I mean, first probably look around and see what the best players are doing. And it may not be football lifting. I don't think it has to be that way in baseball. It should be specific to the demands of the sport and specific to the athlete. But there's a lot of benefit to resistance training, among other things. So I would encourage you to reconsider. And if you wouldn't do that, let's find some creative ways to help you get better physically in other ways.
Your response with an extended pause said it all. The resistance training program is crucial to maximizing the performance of a young athlete. Coach, I'll wrap it up with here. This whole time, I literally thought that you were at like a health club or something like that when I was looking at the locker, but I just realized you're in Wichita, aren't you?
I'm in the Wichita Wind Surge locker room right now.
When we open Friday, Saturday. When's opening night?
Tomorrow. Opening night tomorrow.
You're gonna be jacked.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really jacked, and the manager's really jacked too. So
I read the manager's jacked.
We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah, Ari and Peyton, Nino's son Nico is the manager, double A manager for the Twins. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I visited Nico when he was the DSL manager for the M's. I went down.
Oh yeah.
Spent some time with him. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Glad to hear he's doing well.
Yeah, we're excited.
I loved listening to the last episode with you guys, and I didn't know he played for you as well. It was a great episode, good listen for sure.
Yeah, 4 years. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool to see him growing up. It's weird to see him growing up with he says adult things now, but I still see him as a kid. He looks like exactly the same as he did when he was a kid.
Last night he spoke to the season ticket holders. There was like 500 people, and then after they were shaking his hand and he was talking to them. And what an out-of-body experience for me to watch my son speak to people like that. I was like, this can't be real. This can't
I
be
wonder
real.
where he learned it from.
It can't be real. It was just like, I was like walking outside of my body going, wow, this is something.
Well, you enjoy that. Obviously, I'll be in touch with you tomorrow to see how that goes. Ari and Peyton, I can't thank you guys enough. Real quick before we get out, Ari, why don't you go first and let people know where they can find you, whether it be online, on social media, at Slammers itself when you're there. Go ahead.
So I mean, within Slammers North, I don't have any social media presence, but you can Google it, Ronick Physical Therapy and Performance, or my website's ronickptandperformance.com. And feel free to reach out, shoot me an email.
Awesome. Peyton, what about you?
I do have a coaching profile on Instagram. It is at Pitching Coach Remy. And then my Twitter or X file or profile is Coach Remy 22. And I'm trying to get more vocal on there and more content put out there. So stay tuned.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Guys, thank you for joining us on this. You guys are absolutely great energy. It is awesome to be around you guys in the building and to have your knowledge, experience, and all of your expertise in the development program. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Great job, you guys.
Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah, all right, fellas. See you.
Take care.
See you.